co-host.
Keisha.
Hey. I wanted to delve into a topic that I know will resonate with everybody. And this particular topic is probably part of the beginning stages of everyone's healing process. And if you don't get this part right, then you really can't move forward in your healing. So I need everybody's undivided attention so we can really tackle this thing that's heavy and sitting on a lot of us at certain points in our lives. But I just wanted to let everybody know that if you didn't check out our previous episode pertaining to soul contracts, then when you get a chance, go back and do so, because a lot of that also intertwines with what we're speaking of today. So that topic that I know everybody's waiting to hear about is about the process of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, that process of forgiveness has so many different layers to it. And we all have to understand these layers so that way we can learn to let go of certain things and move forward in our healing.
Yes.
So when it comes to forgiveness in general, you know, we've all like I said, we've all had it. So we've all had moments in our lives where we have been
Oh
tested,
yeah. Time and time again.
tested, having to swallow our pride sometimes and understanding the relationships that we encounter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So, it's funny because I think about so many different times in my life where I've had to forgive people, but you don't realize how a lot of it starts as a child, right? You have a lot of this childhood trauma that we end up acquiring, that we don't realize plays such a huge part in who we are as an adult.
Yes.
And a lot of you, and I really want to delve into this subject for another show, because this is a whole nother show in itself, when we talk about how our parents usually that first layer of forgiveness that we have to endure. And
Yes.
because our parents create who we are, right? Our parents create us. A lot of you guys have mama trauma, daddy trauma that you're holding on to. How can I
Mm-hmm.
forgive my mother? My mother was
Yep.
evil.
Uh-huh.
my mother my mother did this, my daddy did that,
Yeah.
and he wasn't in my life, and things of that nature. And how
Mm-hmm.
can you get past that hurt and that pain that's so intense? And as you start interacting in other relationships as an adult, some of you have come to the awareness of how these mommy and daddy issues actually affect you, but
Mm-hmm.
some of you haven't. And that's why I want to really open up this door for some of you guys, so that way you really can tap into this and have a full understanding of how these beginning relationships really affect every avenue of your life as an adult,
Yeah.
right? In case
Yeah.
you got an example of,
Well, to piggyback on the parent thing, also the way we've learned how to forgive others sometimes stems from our parents. So if you
mhm.
had a parent that had a hard time forgiving when you were younger, watching your mother or father, if they held a grudge on a person for years, a lot of times people tend to inherit the gift of forgiving,
Yeah.
whether it was positive or negative. You might have had a mama that went to church and taught you, regardless of what, turn the other cheek. You got to forgive. Or might have had a mama or dad that tell you, I'm not talking to him. Huh. And then years later, your mom and her brother are still out of sorts. So you really learn how to forgive from the time you're a kid.
That is so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. It's funny. I didn't even think about that. But
Let me
yes.
tell a quick story. I remember, and the only reason why I'm not even going to say anybody else's name that was involved in the story, but I will use my mother because she has passed on. She had a cousin that he was one of those, he was like a swindler, a slickster, and she always gave him the benefit of the doubt. And finally, he just did that one thing that just pissed her off. And when I tell you, we didn't see him for at least 3 years.
Mm.
And we got the call that he was standing at a light and a car jumped the curb and hit him. and he was trapped between the car and the pole, and that's how he died. And then the crazy part was when we were at his funeral service, the minister said that 2 months before that he gave himself to God. He accepted Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior.
Mm.
So he knew that, so thank God for his soul that he got it together before he left, because he was a swindler from what I remember. But my mom and other people that didn't forgive him, they were bawling and crying at the funeral,
Mm.
because at that time they were only in their 30s or 40s. So I think people think that when they hold a grudge on someone for years, that eventually we'll talk again. But I'm not ready to settle this now. I'll work on that later when we're like in our 70s and 80s. But in her case, that didn't happen. He died young, and she was one of the many people that had pushed him out the door and not forgave him, and they were bawling and crying, and they knew that that wasn't the right thing at that time. They figured out they should have forgave him, because it wasn't that serious. It wasn't that serious.
That's so true, because people don't think about that. People
Yeah.
don't think about that this is the part of forgiveness that makes us so human, is that we move on with our lives. You think that time is on our side, or we don't think
Mhm.
about how losing that person would truly affect us, and you don't want to hold on to that. So God only gives you a short window to be able to rectify the situation and
Yes,
balance out the situation between you and that individual. So you cannot
definitely.
take that time for granted.
Oh
You
yeah.
want to make sure that if something's sitting on you, again, if something's sitting on you and you know that it's really not worth it, because your spirit is talking to you and trying to tap you on the shoulder, say, hey,
Yeah.
buddy, pay attention, because it's really not that serious.
Yeah.
And because it's not that serious, if that person may not take the initiative, they may be waiting for you, and you might have to be the bigger person. Who cares? The point is that once you release it, you've released it, and you can move
Yes.
forward, because you
Yes.
don't want anything to occur within these two individuals, between yourself and that individual that you're holding on to any
Hmm.
resentment towards, where the relationship ends in this lifetime and you don't
Yeah.
have that chance and that opportunity to let it go.
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
when you don't have that chance to let it go, it will carry with you until the day you close your eyes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then guess what happens when you close your eyes? You go back to the committee, you talk about how you didn't rectify that moment, and you might be chilling in heaven for a little while, but guess what? They're going to pull you back down here. You're going to have to
You
do a
gotta go
repeat.
back. You gotta go back.
Repeat of the same
Yeah.
shit until you get it right.
And speaking from experience, and I had briefly mentioned this in another show, I had some issues with some individuals, and it took me a very long time to forgive them, to the
Mm.
point where I would ruminate over it, and it would bother me and bother me. And God bless Janine's ears, because she had to endure me on the phone and I'm not forgiving.
I got ears of gold, honey. My ears are of gold.
And I would even make the comment, I know I said this a million times, and I would go back over the story and I would say what, and it pissed me off. And child, God bless you, Janine, because and I thank you for being. And I will say this about Janine. She would lightly say, "Hey, well, at some point you got to forgive, because it's holding you back." And one of the things I need for everyone to understand is, all the times I was holding on to this grudge, I would be in my bed thinking about it. I would be eating thinking about it. And guess what? The individuals I was mad at was not even thinking about me.
But see, that's the whole thing that everybody needs to understand, is that when you hold on to a grudge and resentment, it gives you the power and the opportunity to play the victim.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so when you're playing when you're playing the victim, you are wallowing in that misery
Yes.
and just prolonging everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
it just gives you power. That honestly, that's what it is. It gives you power, but you don't realize that it's a negative power.
The negative power. And it eats
Yeah,
away at your system. It eats away at your soul. It eats away at your body, like your flesh and your cells. It
you don't
really
know.
does, on on a medical standpoint, stress kills people. So being angry and not forgiving is part of being stressed. So
Yep.
your body will start exuding these symptoms because you're not forgiving, and you don't even know it's because you're not forgiving. You think it is, oh, maybe it's a food I'm eating or whatever it is, a water, the community's water. No, it's because you haven't forgiven, and you're ruminating over it, and you're letting it bother you, and you're taking it to bed. So listen,
Not the
I am a
community
true
water.
testament, and I will say this: once I forgave, I felt like somebody opened up the curtains and let the sunshine come in.
Yeah.
It's a refreshing feeling.
Yeah.
And then when you really sit and talk with that person, that's when you realize like they really wasn't thinking about me. They went on with their life. I was sitting here for 3, 4 years holding a grudge against them, and they was accomplishing things. They was doing a damn thing out there.
You don't know, again, you don't know how damaging holding on to things can be. It's very, very damaging.
It is. It
It's
is.
almost like a spirit is on you. And in
Mm-hmm.
some cases, it is a spirit that is on you that won't allow you
Yeah.
to move forward, because there are entities that do hold us back from living a life full of fulfillment, because they know how happy we could be, or how powerful
Mm-hmm.
positively
Mm-hmm.
we could be if
Yeah.
we do let go of these things and of that darkness. So
Oh
you
yeah.
have to
Oh
be
yeah.
definitely be aware
Mm-hmm.
of and seize any opportunities that are before you to be able to let go of these things.
Yeah.
So like one thing I want to bring up too is, and this is going to be tough for some people, this is going to be tough, and but I have to bring it up because there's some people that are living with this, and you have to understand um, where this is coming from. And again, I'm going to revert back to our previous episode about soul contracts. So there are people who have experienced some very, very significant trauma,
Yes.
very significant, very real trauma, things on the lines of someone violating you physically,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's rape or whatever it may be, molestation, I guess that's the same, but still,
Domestic violence.
domestic violence, absolutely, things like that. Even if it's murder, I hate to use the word, but I'm just being honest. So
And
if
I'm glad you're
there's,
bringing that up. Because
yeah,
that
if
is a
there,
touchy subject.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. People need to hear this because this. I'm hoping that this will touch and resonate with a lot of souls out here who have experienced these very heavy things.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to understand in those particular instances that no one deserves it. Number one, no one ever deserves to be violated.
Yes.
Um, this will this. Hmm, this different angles to what I'm going to say, but one thing I do want to bring up is that if you don't find it within your soul and in the core of you to move on from the pain that you've experienced, um it can be extremely, extremely detrimental, not only to your growth, because a lot of you are holding on to it so heavily and so terribly. And
Mm-hmm.
you know that there are things in your life that you wish to accomplish, but for some reason, your
Mm-hmm.
spirit continues to revert back to this instance of when you were violated. And
Yes.
you say to yourself, how? Janine, tell me how, when this person did this to me and did that to me. And just to touch on our previous subject again, is that you contracted with that person. You contracted with that person. And here's the reality, and I hope it brings solace to some of you guys, is that because you contracted with that individual, there's a strong possibility that you
Mm-hmm.
have could have done that same act or something similar to
Yes.
that very same individual in a previous lifetime,
Yes.
and it's coming back to you. It's
Mm-hmm.
coming back to you. And some of you may think it's bullshit, and
Yeah.
i'm and
Like
I'm
I thought that in the beginning.
Yeah, some of you may
But
think it's bullshit, but if you see signs, if your spirit's like talking to you in different ways,
mm-hmm.
however they they may trigger you in that aspect. They do talk to you, and they are nudging you to let you know that it's okay to let it go. See, one thing about death, and that we have to understand, that death is just a process, it's just a transition, right? And we are all souls, but we're
Mm-hmm.
here right now, souls living in the physical.
Yeah.
We have the opportunity to live in the physical space, but we're all souls. So when we pass on, we're just like them,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
So we may think of death and physical violation as being something heavy and traumatic, which in all reality, in this physical space, it is.
Yeah.
But then we go back to God, we go back to our soul bodies,
Yeah.
and we're just the same. We're still the same. We never really missed out on anything. Everything's still the same, but you don't want to carry these emotions back with you into your soul body. You don't want to hold on to these emotions
Mm-hmm.
within your soul body, because it just will continue to repeat and carry on into other lifetimes. So I'm begging you all,
Mm-hmm.
if this particular subject is something that is affecting you as heavy as a physical violation from
Mm-hmm.
somebody else, I know it's not easy. And I know some of you may be experiencing heavy depression, significant anxiety, anger,
Mm-hmm.
fear. And these are all the evils that hold us back from moving on.
Oh yeah.
And could you imagine a world and a space if, and I'm not going to say regret. I don't ever want to say, well, I wish this never happened to me. I don't want you guys to ever say, I wish this never happened to me. It's happened,
Yeah.
and there's nothing you could do about it. And you're still here to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, how you change what's happened to you is let go
And forgive.
and forgive,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because that person could have been contracted,
Oh yeah.
or that person could have been dealing with something where you just happen to be at the wrong place, or I should say the right place at the right time,
Yeah.
because this, again, it's the contract that you guys develop within each other. And it could be a complete stranger, it could be a family member, it could be a friend, whoever violated you physically.
Yeah.
But whatever the instance was, just give yourself the grace in
Yeah.
knowing that, okay, it happened, but now it's time to move on. And
Yep.
when you start to let go and move on, God will empower you in such a way
Oh
that
yeah.
not only will you have the opportunity to be able to achieve so many great things in your life,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't know how that energy can allow you to be an advocate for other individuals who have experienced the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what a great thing in God's eyes to be an advocate and a
Mhm.
protector of other people who have been
Yep.
violated in the same way that you have been violated. But when you show them that you have the strength and the will and the
Mhm.
power to let go and forgive, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
collective effort. This is
Mm-hmm.
part of the divine collective, where you can really do this something so magical that it can affect and like a puddle. We talked about this puddle penetrate other people in a way where
Oh
other
yeah.
people can become elevated and
Mm-hmm.
live in such a high vibrational space, because they are no longer being sucked down into
Oh
the
yeah.
misery and the pain and the anger that they experience from being physically violated.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say this, give the same point about being an advocate, like being a spokesperson for women who've been, raped or molested or domestically abused. So definitely turn that energy into positive. Also,
100%.
too, I mentioned before that I'm a psych nurse, and just started psych, and I like it. But one of the things that amazes me is that there are many people who are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and even 80s that are in a psych ward because of something happened previously, like a rape or domestically being abused or molestation. You have people in their 70s that still have that in their minds, that they, from the time they were little kids. So it's really important that you let go. We talked about shadow work. Shadow work can also help with healing from those traumas. But the reason why it's important for you to let go is because if you don't let go and forgive, this will haunt you for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You will carry it like a badge on your chest. And even if you don't verbalize to people, oh, this has happened to me physically, you bring that anger and that energy around to any relationship you're in.
Yep.
Even just going to work, you bring that energy to the people, your employees, your coworkers. So it's really important that you let go and forgive and free yourself. And that's a form of freedom, freeing yourself from that energy that you were enduring through the trauma and the pain mentally. Because if not, then you'll end up where I work, unfortunately. And I don't wish that on any of you.
Yeah.
Because the people that work that are in my unit look just like me and you.
Very
Regular
true.
people have great successful jobs, careers, family, children, boyfriends, wives, whatever. Psych patients are not just people that are walking around and just talking to themselves. That's not, no, most of the people that are there is because of the childhood traumas or the lifetime traumas that they've endured, and they just can't take it anymore. And a lot of times I have to be careful, but I want to say to my patients, you got to let go. But what I usually say is, do you pray? I say, do you pray? Maybe, I try to tell them like a hidden message
Yeah.
about letting go
Yeah.
because I don't want to get fired.
Yeah. The trigger the subconscious,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
But no, I mean, listen, one thing that we also fail to realize, so I want to take it back to the parents again, that when we have this trauma that has occurred to us, that how it creates trauma bonds. So if
Mm-hmm.
you or some of you are looking for these pleasant and beautiful relationships, and you don't realize that you can never move forward into having that type of a relationship because you're still holding on to so much trauma, and
Mm-hmm.
you're pointing the finger at somebody else, and you don't realize that a lot of it is within yourself that you have to look at. So
Yes,
you
yes,
can easily have a trauma and attract someone else with just as much trauma as you, and
yes,
together you enable each other's emotions, and we call that trauma bonding.
yeah.
And some of you have heard this term, especially in social media, how it's becoming more popular, what trauma bonding, identifying trauma bonding, but that's what bonds are, is that when you have a lot of heavy trauma, and then your significant other has a lot of heavy trauma, and you just enable each other's trauma. And
Oh
I
yeah.
see it, I have family members that do that. And they because they're together, they just literally are one big ball of wallowing misery. They
Yes.
yell at each other. Some of them have substance abuse history, where that substance abuse is just literally just a band-aid. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
band-aid to block you from tapping into the trauma that you're not willing to face.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell you, you can never have a flourishing relationship until you tackle these things, until you address
Yeah.
these things within yourself. And it's like how can you ever love somebody, how can you ever love or heal somebody else when you've
Mm-hmm.
never even done the soul searching and the healing within yourself?
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
takes years to even realize that, and trust me, I
Yeah.
get it, I've gone through it.
Oh yeah.
I was well into the later part of my life, the latter
Mm-hmm.
part of my life, until I realized some of these things about myself too, was that I had to learn how to let go and love myself in
Mm-hmm.
order for me to give 100% to the next person.
Oh yeah.
And I'm here now.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
here. I'm
Oh
looking.
yeah.
I'm still looking. But I've learned the importance of choosing yourself, and you can
Yeah.
never get to the point of choosing and loving yourself until you learn how to let go.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
And
And
that's
I
why.
want.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
No, no, because I want you to finish that point because I'm going to change, kind of go in a different direction.
No, just really quick, and this is why I brought up, I think it was in the second episode, about my 3 keys to life. Right? If you haven't had a chance, go back and
Yeah.
check the episodes about karma. But my 3 keys of life, and if anybody proves me wrong, then I swear I will give you a free QHHT session. But my 3 keys to life, if you do not tackle these keys to life, you will never acquire abundance in your life. And those 3 keys
Mm-hmm.
are: number one, starting with forgiveness. You
Yes.
have to forgive. You have to
Yes.
forgive in order to move forward. To number two, having gratitude for the things around you. So even the
Mm-hmm.
experience, no matter how heavy and dark the situation is, you can still be grateful for it, because it has created this newborn individual that you will become.
Mm-hmm. Oh
And
yeah.
then once you have gratitude for the things around you, then you can move on to number three, and that's
Oh yeah.
loving everything around you. And when you love, that's the closest thing to God.
Yeah. Love is the highest vibration, and you
100%.
can look that up too.
Challenge me.
Yes. The point I was going to mention earlier was so the whole contract thing, and I'm glad you brought that up because in the previous episode we discussed contracts and how people serve a certain purpose in your life. And for example, if you have a coworker at your job that's pissing you off, and we mentioned that previously in the last episode, their purpose may be to get you out of that job. If
Mm.
God doesn't, if you're not meant to be at that job forever, some people go, work at jobs and their mental thing is, I'm going to retire here, and God may say, no, you're not serving your purpose. So He will utilize other people around you who you previously had a contract with to bother you. It could be your boss, it could be a co-worker to bother you, and that's your way. And that happens, because that happened to me, I'm like, oh no, I got to get up out of here. This place ain't for me. So that's why you got to forgive, because if that person was destined to mess with you, then they did their job correctly. Because if you didn't leave, they did their job correctly. And then you have to look back and say, you know what? I forgive that person, because now I'm out of here in a better job and I'm doing amazing things. But you won't, at the time when you're going through that storm, trust me, it don't feel good. And you start like, I hate people, I can't stand. That's what I do. Go ahead.
Yeah, but and check this out. Not only that, but when someone, let's just use the example of work again. But if
Yeah.
somebody is attacking you at work, I don't want to use the word attack. Maybe somebody is bothering you at work.
Bothering you, yes.
Their whole aura just drives you nuts,
Yes, yes. And you
right?
notice when they're not at work, you have a good day. You're like, oh my God, thank God so and so's not here. We've been, especially when they're on vacation. Oh my God, you're like, oh, we had an amazing week without so and so. I'm not even gonna say no names because it might trigger somebody. So it might be like that has happened to me all my years of working. Even when I was a teenager with a little piece of job, when so and so was on vacation and they got on my nerves. I had an amazing week, and as soon as they come back, or even the day before they come back, you be like, "Oh God, now I got to deal with this misery."
All of us. I'm sure we've
Yes,
all encountered that. But
yes,
now it's to the point I do a bunch of praying and spiritual where I like candles now. I'm like, okay,
yes,
I can get rid of this energy that's attacking me. Maybe this person could work in another department. I could send them to another department.
yes.
But I swear it's so true. When you have somebody that is just nipping at just
Yes.
oh
And even if you know that you're in your purpose, like there's people that are at jobs and know they're in their purpose,
yeah,
that if that person is bothering you, you have to ask yourself, is it because they just want to bother me, or is God nudging me to do better?
correct.
Sometimes God is nudging you to do better. Maybe He needs you to elevate in that department. So, you might need to go back to school, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why you have that villain and that contract with that person. That person is serving a purpose. And that's what all contracts that we have. And that's why it's so important to forgive, because you don't know what contract was signed, and that person is only doing their job.
But that's exactly what I was going to say. So when somebody's nudging at your soul, that is literally a spirit sometimes talking to you to wake you up into the reality of the moment. And it may not be necessarily that that person is purposefully being an asshole. It's that
Yeah.
that person's asshole ways, asshole abilities
Yes.
are attracting you, because there are things within yourself that you have to learn how to fix. So you can
Hmm.
be the most elevated person ever, but and I have mentioned in previous episodes how the karma just doesn't really stop. It kind of continues. And sometimes they will continue to test you to see how much you really learned about
Yes.
from the last time. So they'll send somebody your way just to
Yeah.
make sure. Was she listening? Did
Yeah.
she listen that last time? And they'll send that asshole person your way just to see if you will handle the situation a little bit differently.
You,
And
also, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but also because as you had mentioned, Keish, that that particular situation will also is also there to kind of readdress, not I'm sorry, not readdress, but oh God, I forgot what I was gonna say. But to make sure that again you learn your lesson and that that person is there because oh, that's what I was gonna say. Remember this about that other individual too. Hopefully, this will give you the grace to be able to forgive that person. Is that they can't help it. They cannot help it. So they are not may not be in the
Hmm.
same level as you are spiritually, mentally, your level of education. Remember these things.
Oh yeah.
If that person is not where you are, don't get mad and attack or assassinate that person's character. That's not godly.
No, because then you're creating karma.
You create karma. What you're really supposed to say and do is, you know what, God bless that person.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I forgive you because you really couldn't help it.
Yes.
You really can't help it. And in those moments when that happens to me, I will, and I kid you not, I pray for that person
Yeah.
to hope that they find clarity and healing and that they can learn how to elevate and become better people. And when I say it's worked, it has
Oh
worked.
yeah. Oh
At
yeah.
work,
You could
at
pray. You
work
could pray
is
for the
worked.
villain. Pray for the villain.
Pray for the villain,
I
and
know.
they will step in.
I think I told this story in one of our first episodes about a nurse who had died. She died and came back, but she spoke to God. She said she didn't see his face, but she spoke to God, and he showed her the villain at her job, and he showed her the villain from the angle of everyone else was wrong. So sometimes we get tested when someone is act like, you know how you said you got to pray for them.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get tested when someone is a certain way, and if we talk about them and start gossiping about that person, he showed her that he showed her how that lady was raised as a child, and she actually was physically abused. And so, because of her physical abuse as a child, she brought that energy wherever she went, like we previously just spoke about. So she had that energy at work, and she was driving people nuts. So
Mm-hmm.
what they could have done collectively was pray for her. They could, and instead of making her feel like an outsider, and that's what they did. And the flip side to that is God was watching how they treated her versus the
Mm,
way she treated them. So that is so intricate.
that
So
is interesting.
yeah, so you have to really be careful on how your interactions with the villains or who you think may be the villain, because at the end of the day, you're being watched. So
Let me tell you, one of my favorite things to tell people is when people start talking about that next individual and saying, oh, this person's getting on my nerves, this, and that, you have to remember that everybody has a story. That's
yes,
my favorite thing to
you
say.
do that. You tell me that all the time about what you tell your employees.
Everybody has a story. And what I mean by that is that there's things that occurred in everybody's life that has
Mm-hmm.
made them into this individual that they are.
Yeah,
And honestly, truly, some people just can't help it.
yeah,
But it's not, it's unfortunate because they're living in that energy and living in that space. But what you
yeah.
allow to penetrate you, remember, it falls on you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really want to be the highest and best version of yourself, you will make sure that or learn how to how to penetrate that person in a way that can um, trigger them into understanding some of these faults that they have, not
Yes.
in a mean way. You must always address things in love, right?
Oh yeah.
But that goes back to you and learning how to communicate and being
Mm-hmm.
emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
And when you figure out a way to tap into an individual to say things that will resonate within their soul,
Mm-hmm.
that you don't realize how much power you truly have
Yes.
as a godly being to be able to have these great impacts on people just through the power of your words,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
words are very powerful. So remember that. Remember that, Keith. You don't take
Mm-hmm.
anything away from this forgiveness subject.
Yes.
Remember that everybody has a story, and how they interacted with you, it was
Yes.
just divine intervention. But you
Mm-hmm.
can always create and change your own space and your and what's happening to you in these moments, because you're the creator. You're
Oh
the
yeah.
creator. So you can
Mm-hmm.
change your perspective. You don't have to look at them as the asshole anymore. Just say, you know
Yeah.
what? Look at the poor little child that was hurt by their mother when they
Mm-hmm.
were 3. And
Oh,
and how they're affecting, how they think they're affecting everybody around them. But I'm going to show them better,
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
right?
When you are the villain, and many of you are, you have treated people bad, you've done things to people. The major thing, we've talked about us forgiving others, but the major thing is you got to forgive yourself. A lot of people have a hard time forgiving themselves. And many people in the psych ward are there because they don't know how to forgive themselves. So that's a major, major point is you have to forgive yourself. None of us are perfect. And I tell all my patients, you were meant to come here and make mistakes. You're no, if you were not meant to come here and make mistakes, then God would have kept you up in heaven. So stay with me. You're too perfect to be down here. So no, we came down here because of previous lives that we made mistakes, and it's like a video game. You come back, and they literally the mistakes you made, they put it right back on your life. All right, here you go. Here goes your basket. Now these are the same problems you had in previous lives. This is what you got to deal with. So that's why you have to endure a hard life. Some people have harder lives than others, but what we've found is that a lot of people are having a hard time forgiving themselves. So in the midst of you learning how to forgive others, you got to forgive yourself because you can't be free if you don't forgive yourself. If you don't forgive yourself, you have a hard time loving yourself.
Oh
So
my
that's so
God.
important.
Oh my God. I'm so glad that we could finish this topic with that, because I can't even begin to tell you how important it is for you to forgive yourself.
Yes.
And the thing is, when you actually forgive other people, that also gives them the space to forgive themselves,
Mm-hmm. You
right?
are
So,
so right. That
yep.
is a great point. That is such a great point.
Yeah. So, forgiving yourself, if you don't do anything else, definitely forgive yourself,
Yes.
because and in reverse, it also gives you the opportunity to forgive others. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely, oh my God, I'm just so glad that you brought that up. People don't understand how powerful that is and how
Yeah.
important that is to be able to
Mm-hmm.
forgive yourself. But again, listen, man, there's just so many layers to the process of forgiveness that we can
Oh
talk about
yeah.
it for hours, and it really can be dissected into different subjects. And we're going to do that. We're
Mm-hmm.
going
That's
to do
why we're
that.
here.
Still here. So stay tuned. And if
Yes.
you haven't yet, make sure you tell everybody about the process of forgiveness. And in doing
Yes.
that, you can like, you can share, and you can subscribe to the Twin Flame Spiritual Chefs. We will also leave a link below on how you can reach us if any of you need any assistance in the healing
Yes.
and
Yes.
forgiveness process. That's what we do. We do
Mm-hmm.
spiritual counseling, and we would love to help you with your journey.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
come on by. Come on by. If you're in the New Jersey, New York metro area, come on by and come check us out. We also do virtual counseling for
We
those
sure
that
do.
are outside of our region, but we're here to
Mm-hmm.
help. So
Oh
thank
yeah.
you guys, man. Thank you. This has
Mm-hmm.
been such a good time. I feel relieved talking about
Yes. I
forgiveness.
feel. like a refresh. I feel like I've forgiven him.
You can let go and we can move on to greater and better things. And
Yes.
most importantly, knowing that God is love. Love is the highest frequency.
Yes.